Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another session of VCE, Virtual Career Exploration with Light. Today, we're going to talk with Tara. And is it, how do you say your last name? Because I was saying the O or the A. What's the vowel sound?
It's with the O, Bateman.
Bateman. Tara Bateman is, oh, Bateman.
Yes.
See, I knew I was going to mess it up anyway. Tara Bateman. So love that. She's going to talk to us and guide us through being an entrepreneur. And we have our host. And again, Light is just here to provide a space for you youth to understand and get to know a little bit about careers. And if you have any questions about this video or any others, we'll be happy to help you. And you guys can always register. So I'll let the youth, the kids, I want to say kids because they're all kids. Gabriel, Davian, and Sanaya introduce themselves, and then we'll go with host.
So, good evening. My name is Gabriel. I'm a member of Light. I get to work with them, and this is going to be my first time hosting. So I'm very excited for that. And I'd like to let Davian and Sanaya introduce themselves.
Good evening. I'm Sanaya. I work with the Light Group too. This is probably like my third interview, so this is really exciting. So, yeah.
My name is David. I'm like the youth council president, but like.
And we just had Sabria join in, and I don't know, let me see. Oh, yep, so we can start, Tara.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am so appreciative that you all took time out of what I'm sure is your very busy schedule, other things you could be doing during this time, but thank you very much for coming and for letting me come and share some things with you all. So I really just, I like to get to know people, right? I'm very much an extrovert. Anybody ever heard the terms introvert, extrovert before? Yes, okay, I see a couple nods. Well, I am very much an extrovert, so I love the interaction and the talking with people. So by all means, if you have questions or if I say something and you're like, it just doesn't really make sense or I don't really get it, please let me know. I'm happy to give another example or try to, just provide more clarification on a particular thing. So as was shared, my name is Tara Bateman, and something about me, one of my strengths is learning. Oh, we have another guest. Well, hello. I love the excitement there.
Okay.
So one of my strengths is learning, and just something I absolutely love to do. I liken myself as to a sponge, right? So everybody knows a sponge. So in order for a sponge to work though, what's the first thing you need?
Okay, no. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the first thing you need to do with the sponge before you can get it working? Anybody? You have to fill it with something, right? With a liquid, with like water or something. But in order for it to be really effective, you need to.
You got to take it out of the package.
Well, yes, yes, that is the first thing. Take it out of the package. Yes, and then you fill it out with water or whatever the liquid is that you're going to be using, and then you have to squeeze it out, right, in order for it to really be effective and do what needs to be done. So that's me when it comes to learning and knowing different things. I like to soak up, and then I love opportunities like this where I get to squeeze and share what it is that that I have learned that I think might be a benefit. So one way that I get to do that on a daily basis is through my quote unquote 9 to 5, which is a college professor at a local university. And I teach classes including business, computer applications. I teach the freshman orientation classes, so those students that are just coming into college, helping them to learn how to navigate this new landscape that they are now a part of. And then I also teach career orientation, which is once the student has gone through that journey of college, they're at the end and they're ready to embark on the next step of their life journey. And so I help them with that. In the midst of all that, in terms of teaching and learning and growing and having met people really all across the country, I have found that college is not necessarily for everyone, but the education is. And that's a big part of why I do what I do outside of my 9 to 5, is sharing business and different skills and things that usually you wouldn't maybe really get to know about until you got to college, but sharing them with teenagers, for those who have the entrepreneurial spirit, who want to start a business now so that they can be effective, right, and successful. So you don't have to wait till you get to college to know the importance of a financial statement, right? You don't have to wait until you take that accounting class for somebody to at least give you the basics of, on a balance sheet, you have assets, you have liabilities, right? And to give you some examples of what that is. To have someone give you the basics of what is the difference between revenue and profit, right? Because just because you make $50,000 in your business doesn't mean you get to keep the whole $50,000, right? So just understanding that, and then just some of the terminology that goes along with that. So that's a big part of what I do in terms of on a day-to-day basis, in terms of teaching in college, and then also with the entrepreneurship. So now I want to shift a little bit more talking about the entrepreneurship part. So I am also, in addition to being a learner and that being one of my strengths, I ideate. Has anyone heard that word before? Ideate. So it's when someone is just really good at coming up with a lot of different ideas. And I mean, like all the time, like I'm always coming up with an idea to do something or to share with someone, or, hey, you like doing that? Did you know you can? And then here I am with an idea of what they can do to either make money with it or use it for their own enjoyment, right? Or use it for their own type of how can you say, like mental health, right? When you just need something to help calm you, right? So people who you see always maybe touching something, right? You ever see anybody like that? They're always fiddling with the pen or touching, right? And so someone was doing that all the time and came up with a fidget spinner. Everybody heard of a fidget spinner?
Nope.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So at some point, instead of someone saying to them, oh, you're always touching stuff, you're always fiddling, they were like, hey, this is a business opportunity, right? For people who like to just kind of touch things and how can I describe it? ASMR, right? Is anyone familiar with that term,
Nope.
right? So a business idea for that might be making slime, right? People are making hundreds of thousands of dollars making and selling slime, right? So that's when, in terms of ideate, that's what I do. Someone says, oh, I enjoy doing this, and immediately my wheels start thinking in terms of, okay, what about, right? So that's the other thing that I do, and that is something that serves me very well when talking about entrepreneurship, right? Because it's very important to have that type of creativity going, right? And something that I really love sharing with young people is there's no such thing as that's too silly. Okay? If you had another adult to tell you that, I'm here to tell you there's no such thing, right? There's no such thing as that's already been done. Have you been in the supermarket lately and walked down the bread aisle and seen how many different types of bread there are? Anybody? Right? There's not
Yeah.
just one. Go ahead. What was that, Davion?
I say, yeah.
Right? So that just goes to show there's no such thing as, oh, somebody already did it. Mm-mm. And even if your idea is out there, has anybody ever heard of the pet rock?
Yeah.
Right? A rock. Things that you see on the ground. Someone made a whole business out of that. Here recently, I saw something. Has anyone ever heard of the orange juice company Tropicana?
Yeah.
Yes, they recently came out with a cereal that is meant to be eaten with orange juice, not with milk. Is that not wild? I just thought that was like, are you serious?
That's amazing. It seems like it's the product of a really good ideation session. Like someone was thinking late at night and they're like, hey, let's go with this.
Yes,
That seems like a lot of what you do.
it is. It is. And so I just use examples like that, just again, to share with young people, because usually, you are the ones who have those wild ideas, right? Your imagination is still going. You haven't gotten to the point of some adults of thinking, well, how am I going to pay this bill? And is this rational, right? And what will people think of me? And, oh, I have to be on a certain path. Your imagination is like, and it's awesome. And so, yes, that is a big part of what I do, is to just try to encourage you to stay on that path, because it can be done.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. We love hearing about what you do, and maybe do you want to go a little bit more into your background and what got you started in business? Because I know a lot of people have that, like maybe that one focus point where they say, this is what I want to do, and here's why. Do you have a point like that, and could you share?
Sure. So thank you. That is a great question. So mine did not come overnight. So I was of the upbringing, right? My parents, you want to get a good education, right? Go to school, get a good education, do well in high school, get into a good college, finish college well, get a good job. That was what I heard all the time. And so that was the path that I started on in elementary school and middle school and high school. I'm doing great. And then I got to college, and I did not have anyone in my life to help me identify things. So when I say help me identify things, like I did not have a strong guidance counselor to say, this might be a good career path for you, or to say, this might be a better college choice for you because. So let me back step a little bit. So all coming up through elementary, middle school, high school, I always attended smaller schools. So there were smaller class sizes, right? Which I excelled very well in. And then my very first college experience was at Penn State University, main campus. My very first college class was Monday morning, 8 a.m., intro to psychology.
Oh.
In an auditorium filled with hundreds of other students. And I was just like, what is this? And when I started, my major that I was pursuing was accounting, because that was a good major, right? So I struggled. I mean, I was on the struggle bus. I was taking up all the seats on the struggle bus. It was so hard for me because I was just not used to that much, right? That many people. I had a hard time connecting, finding my tribe, learning how to even relate with the different instructors, right? Just figuring it out. I had a really, really hard time. Also during that time, I was having some trouble at home in terms of my parents were going through a separation after 17 years of marriage. So there was just a lot going on in my life. So needless to say, once I got to the end of that first year, I got that very nice letter stating that I was on academic probation. And I had never gotten a letter like that before. And I just was like, okay, that's it. That's it. I need to just, I don't know, right? But it was just it, because my world has always had like a path, right? You do this, you get this. You do this, you get this. And now here I was just confused. So I'm on academic probation, right, from school. I'm like, I already took out student loan for that. We're gonna pay that back. And my parents have now split up, right? So I'm dealing with that. And I'm back home with not knowing what I'm going to do for school, no job. Yeah, just a little lost. In my mind, it was a thought, but you still should be in college, right? So I started looking at local universities. And I said, maybe accounting, right, wasn't really where I should be. Because I took that first accounting class and it was so boring. So boring. So I said, well, I like to help people. So maybe I could be a nurse. That's a noble profession. So I enroll in one of the local universities there where I was from in Philadelphia. And you have to take biology. That's just one of the things you need to take, right, to be a nurse.
Yeah.
So I go in and I take biology, and my very first biology class, and I fail. I say, I've been doing well in school, right? All those other years, graduated 5th in my high school, like just what is going on here? But I'm not deterred. I enroll again the next semester, and I'm going to take biology because I'm going to be a nurse. And I took it again. And I failed. And then I said, okay, hold on. We need to reevaluate, because this is a very important part of becoming, right, a nurse. Like, you need to know the biology part. And the biology was just a prerequisite to continue with any degree. So I got some help. I got some tutoring, took biology for that 3rd time. I passed with a C, and I said, now what else am I going to do with my life? All right. So I took a little bit of time off right then, because I was like, this college thing, I'm just racking up debt. I don't really have a focus. Let me work for a little bit. Right. So I started doing that. After working for a couple of years, I came back and I said, all right, I'm going to try this school thing again. So I went to a local community college. Again, that was better for me. I still hadn't put it together yet that I do better in smaller environments though, right? So here I am now at the community college. It's coming along. I'm doing better. And I'm like, but I really want that bachelor's degree. I really want that 4-year degree. So I ended up transferring to a 4-year university. And that is where I finished out and finally got my degree in health administration, which I love. I love that experience. And the 4-year university that I transferred to was a much smaller school. That was also the key. So for what was supposed to be, right, typically for an undergraduate degree, they say 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 5. It took me 13 years to finally finish. And what I want to share with you all is that, but I did finish. So even if you are on a path and you're trying something and it's not working and you're like, but it should work, and it's working for all my other friends, and it's working for my neighbors, and it's working for, you know, my mom's friend's daughter or my dad's friends or whoever else, you stay focused on you and you keep persevering. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with us. It seems like maybe taking that break and working a little bit really helped. And would you say, like, do you have like any mentors or people who assisted you in that journey?
Great question. So, I want to circle back a little bit, because I know your question was kind of where did I kind of see that, oh, this is the direction. So you are right. Stepping away and working for a little bit did help me, because it gave me a different view of things, right? It exposed me to different things and different ideas and different ways of doing things. And actually, that's when the entrepreneurial part started going. because I was like, if it's taken me so long to finish this traditional path, like I gotta get going with my life, right? I felt like there was something missing, right? That creativity part, because I was always just grinding at school, but I was grinding at the wrong things in school. Yeah. So definitely while I was out working is when I started like, oh, I like this over here. And then I went to cosmetology school for manicuring. I didn't want to do it for hair, but I did like the nails part. And so that was one of my entrepreneurial endeavors. I did mobile manicuring and pedicuring. So I would go to people's homes. Also, I enjoy jewelry, fashion, as you can see. And so that was something else. I would do what I called handbag parties. So, you know, go to New York, get all these different type of handbags, and then go to different people's homes and have parties selling my handbags and jewelry. So that was like the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, really doing those things that I liked and enjoyed, and then finding people of like mind that would want to support me. So I just wanted to touch on that. So now in terms of mentors, yes. Mentors are so important. And I've only realized the level of importance, I would say, within the past 12 years or so. So I think it really started when I went to grad school and the connections that I made there. And then really within these last 5 years, it's just become strong that I've been able to identify people that I can really grab a hold of, right? And that I see, oh, you have something that can definitely help me to move forward, and I have something that I believe can help you, right? So it's like that mutual kind of symbiotic relationship, and that's something that you want to remember with the mentor. No matter who they are or how many accolades they have or how many degrees, I promise you, you have something that they need. I promise you, all day, every day, there is something you have that they need also.
Thank you. And I think kind of going off of that just a little bit, for those watching, what's your advice on finding a mentor?
So you're asking me or for me, the advice?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. One, being open. And I know that might sound a little weird, but in being open, it takes away from you saying, right, I have to have a mentor who does this, right? Or I have to have a mentor who does this. So for example, do we have any gamers here? Yep. All right, Davion. Anyone else? No? Board games?
Yeah.
Okay, card games? Yes, okay. So that requires or involves, right, problem solving skills, right? That requires critical thinking skills. That requires focus, right? To know what's going on in the game, if your goal is to win the game, which it should be, right? So instead of necessarily saying, oh, I want a mentor who's a gamer also, or I want a mentor who also likes to play board games, right? Be open to someone maybe who might be someone who loves to cook, right? And so they express their creativity in cooking. They work with their problem solving in critical thinking skills, right? If the recipe calls for whole milk and they only have skim milk, okay, so what can I do here to still make this work, right? So I would say that's the first thing, is to just be open, that it doesn't have to be someone with the exact same likes and path as you. The other way to go about finding a mentor is sometimes just asking. Just asking. And it's not even a matter of, oh, I don't want to look like I'm desperate, right? Or anything like that. It's not a matter of that. You have a need, right? It's a little phrase out there, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So there's something that you're looking for, that you're in need of. And so sometimes you just have to ask. So if you see someone and there's something about them, something about their energy, something about their personality that just draws you to them, I would say just ask. You know, I'm on the path to do this, and I really think you can be a part of helping me get there successfully. I don't know too many people that are going to be like, nah, I don't want to help.
Yeah, I think just everyone here, I think we all want to help people, and just naturally. And so I think it's really neat that you're here tonight, kind of sharing that with us and kind of verbalizing that message that everyone's here to help. We're all here to support people. And I think so many people don't get that message. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure. Sure. So are there a couple more things that I wanted to share, but are there any questions so far, or anyone that has been thinking about entrepreneurship and maybe you're not sure kind of what to do, or what area, or even an idea?
I've been thinking about doing, running my own hair business, but I just recently had an interview for a nursing home, and it was really exciting for me, and I realized that it's gonna look really good on anything because I want to be a nurse as well. So it's gonna look good on a lot of things, but I do have a couple of questions. How do you, besides the mentors and all of that, how do you keep yourself on track? Like, what motivates you? What do you use to motivate yourself? Like just motivate, like affirmations. Like, what do you do to calm yourself down and motivate you?
Sure, that is a great question. So a few things. So one, I want to be completely transparent that there are more times probably that I neglect that part of myself, that I know what motivates me, than the times I do act on it. So I do not want to come across like, oh yeah, I'm always like on the, no, okay. But when I do remember, right, to prioritize me, one thing is doing things to spark my creativity. So one thing that I really like to do is I like to knit. Okay. And so there's just something about just the rhythm of when I'm knitting and getting it done and seeing the progress. Right. And so that's something that just keeps me calm. And the creativity, if I'm trying a new pattern, right, to see how that works. Also, I have a type of morning ritual that I do. Again, total transparency. I don't do it every day. I try to, but when I do, it involves one, some type of meditation. And so please hear, no way, shape, or form am I trying to promote a religion or anything like that, but just some form of meditation. So whether it's if I'm reading a scripture or a devotional or listening to a song, right? So I'll do that just to kind of quiet myself. And then I have a journal that I write in. And there are certain things that I usually write every day. The first is, I say I must be clear about what I want, right? And even just in writing that, if you ever notice, if you're writing something, right, or if you're reading, even if you're not reading it out loud, you can still hear it, right? There's still a voice. So either it's someone else's voice that you heard say it, or it's your own voice. So I just want to say, be very mindful of that. Whenever you're writing or reading, you're still listening. So as I'm writing, that first thing is I must be clear about what I want. And that just helps to center me. And then I go on with the rest of them. My next thing that I write is I am grateful for the defeats and failures of the past. Right? Because I recognize that is what has brought me to this point. So first thing that I try to do is show gratitude. So I'm grateful that that happened. And then I say, thank you, God, for all the blessings that you're going to give me today. So I go from a point of centering, I must be clear about what I want, to I'm grateful to what has brought me here, and I'm excited about what's going to happen today. Right. And then usually there's some other type of affirmation or motivation that I write to just kind of focus me for that day. So that's the other thing that I do. So one is something fun like knitting, because that boosts my creativity. My daily kind of motivation and journal writing. And then I love thrift store shopping. Anybody else? Yeah, okay. So that is something else that motivates me, because I see something from the past, right? Or I see this great pattern on a dress, or I don't know, just something. And I'm like, ooh, that's different. Look at that, right? So that's the other thing that I do to motivate me to keep going. Like at some point, somebody said, I want to make this dress. And they made money off of it because it's sold and it's still here. It's still serving purpose to someone else. And so that encourages me for whatever it is that I'm doing today. I am very hopeful and very intentional in what I do, that it is serving someone today and they can take that to serve someone later. Yeah. So I would say those are like the main things that I do for motivation. Did that answer your question, Sanaya?
Yes.
Sure. Can I just say something to you about your idea that you like hair? So do you want to like have your own beauty supply store, or you like actually doing hair?
I want both. It's
You want
like
both.
gonna be like a shop, and then it's gonna be a store, like right, like they're gonna be combined. And
Okay.
sometimes I'm gonna have my own personal chair, and sometimes I take, do I do the hair, and then when I don't want to, I don't do it. But I do love to do hair.
Okay. So something, if I can just share, because you mentioned about working in the nursing home, and I'm not sure what your responsibilities would be there. What about doing hair in the nursing home?
That sounds really good. Being the fact that I do help get them dressed, and I help them get ready for the day, and then she has to train me for transporting them to the bed, to the wheelchair, and stuff like that. But that's definitely a good idea. I haven't thought of that.
So I would say, think about that. So when my grandmother was in the nursing home, there was someone who would come in a couple times a week, right? And we would just make appointments for my grandmother to get her hair done. There was also someone that came in that did nails. And so we'd make an appointment for my grandmother to get her nails done when that person was there. So just a thought.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. Is there any other questions?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
This kind of like, well, I guess it kind of applies to me because I like really feel passionate about like music, which in some way could be in an influencer type of way, but in my opinion, like in like songwriting and like actually like using music. So my question was, does like everything you said about like the influencer's point of view and stuff like that apply to non-influencers as well, and like entrepreneurs? Like, does it apply to people who have original jobs and besides entrepreneurs and stuff like that?
Okay, I want to make sure I'm clear on your question. So what aspect are you asking? Does it apply to entrepreneurs or people who have jobs? Which aspect?
I'm asking like if it's an original job, like like for example, like if it applies to someone who's like a police officer or something, like does it apply to them?
Okay, I got you. So yes, and yes. So when you think about an entrepreneur, it does not always have to be someone who has their own business. It can sometimes be a state of mind, right? So even in, so your example of being a police officer, right? You can go to school, right, and do the training and everything for a police officer. And at some point, there was an officer or just someone in the department who said, in addition to regular police officers, we need those who can respond to special situations if there's someone that has some type of mental health issue, right? So that's like an entrepreneurial mindset, because it's, okay, we need to step outside of our regular box of what we do on a day to day and look at something else, right? So definitely, yes, you can take any type of regular job. You think about a doctor, right? So doctors go to school, right? There's a set regimen, set curriculum that they're supposed to go through. And at one point, there was a doctor who said, I've been noticing I have several patients that have heart issues. I wonder what would happen if I really focused in on that, right? So that's that entrepreneurial mindset of not just the regular, but now I want to focus in on that. Yeah. And even things that are needed to help, right? So at one point, people were like, okay, as a doctor, you do your exam, you see what's going on with someone. And then someone said, but we need to see what's going on inside. So what if we created this great big machine and people would lie down on it and it was like a tunnel, and then they have to go in there and they have to be really still, right? But then we can see what's going on inside of them and we'll call it an MRI. Right? So again, that's that entrepreneurial of stepping outside of just being a doctor, just treating people on the day to day to, okay, but what else can be done? So yes, definitely the different skills and even thinking can be transferred to have an entrepreneurial mindset. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thanks for all the questions. I think now we're gonna move on a little bit, and so our next segment, we're gonna try to focus a little bit more on how to get into podcasting or business. Could you share with us a couple your advice on how to get into the career you've gotten into?
Sure. So one, what I've learned is do what it is that you like to do. Right. And sometimes it might be hard as a young person, right? Because again, you have people in your ears over here. You need to do this and you need to do that. And I'm not, yay for the adults in your life that mean well, right? And want the best for you. And our world is changing. And what was the status quo is not really working, right? We need your not necessarily wanting to do the traditional, let's try something else, right? So years ago when online learning first came out, it was really looked down on, right? I mean, people were like, oh, you got your degree off of the computer? Oh, must not be a real degree. And now, right? Well, within the past year, we've gotten a little bit more out of school, but for about a year and a half, that's all we were doing, right? Was online. When I think about it, and people who have an imagination and keep going, does anybody remember the show, The Brady Bunch?
Yeah.
Right? One thing I always thought was so cool about The Brady Bunch is when it first came on the screen. What was it? Y'all, that was Zoom. Y'all remember how they looked? Right? The 9, and they could look up at each other. That was Zoom. So somebody had a thought, wouldn't this be cool? And it took a while for stuff to catch up, right? But my whole point is, whatever it is that you're liking, go for it. And so that's how I got into podcasting, right? Because what? I'm a sponge. So I fill up, and I need places to squeeze out what it is I've learned, right? When I fill up and I meet people and I meet awesome entrepreneurs who are doing things, who are baking and making these delicious, beautiful pieces of art called cake, right? Or if I meet other entrepreneurs that are so passionate about what is going on in our world and are dedicating what they do outside of school to serving the homeless population in their area, right? Or just all these wonderful things. I'm like, oh, I'm filling up. And other people have got to know this, right? Other people have got to meet them. Other people have got to know this person started their business at 11 years old. They're now 17, and look at what they're doing, right? And that doesn't mean that college maybe is not an option for them, right? They still may choose to do that. And in the meantime, right, they're doing what it is that they love. They're really contributing to not just themselves, but they're serving someone else in what it is that they do, right? One of the young people that I interviewed on my podcast, what was her name on Instagram? I think it was Jammy Girl. And I asked her, and so she makes body care, right? Soaps and creams and such. And I said, well, how'd you come up with the name Jammy Girl? She said, because I always like making things while I'm in my pajamas. I don't like getting dressed for it. Okay, right? She's doing what she enjoys. So it's just those type of little things that allow her to be herself and do her thing, right? And in addition, she also, I would notice her hashtag on a lot of her things said adoption rocks. And so I said, just can you tell me a little bit more? What made you so passionate about it? She said, well, me and my brother were adopted, and my mom is great. She's a single mom. And I just want other people to know adoption rocks. I was like, yes, right? So she's just being herself. She's expressing herself. She's doing her thing. And so that is the one thing I would definitely say. And again, what brought me to podcasting, being able to talk to other people, share other things. The other, what else got me to teaching? So I did a substitute teaching when I was in grad school for one of my professors. And that's when I really got bit with the, just that teaching bug, right? Being able to share something that I know, but like I said, I always learn something from my students. I always. It is never, I don't want to walk into any classroom, right, or any space as like a sage on the stage. I'd much rather be a guide on the side, okay? Because everybody in the room has something to contribute. And that's what I want to be able to put out there. Yeah, so that's what I would say, right? Go with whatever it is that drives you. I'll give you another example of everything's not taken up, right? There's still room. So has anybody ever heard of Ford Motor Company?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. How about Chrysler?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cadillac?
Yep.
Honda? Toyota? Okay. So all of these car companies were there, right? Have been there for years and years and years. And then anybody ever heard of Tesla?
Yep.
Right? He hasn't been around, Elon Musk hasn't been around too long with Tesla. But what about all the people who told him there's already cars out here? What are you doing trying to make another car? Right? And if anybody, is anybody where you can go on Google to tell me what today's stock price is for Tesla? If you can.
Last time I checked, it was about 750, but with the market the way it is, you never know.
You never know, but you know what? If we're going to go with the number 750, I'll go with that number. Even if the market gets a little funky, right? So again, if you have an idea, go for it. Has anybody ever heard of NASA?
Yeah.
Right? For the longest time, they were the only ones in the space game, right? And then again, same person, Elon Musk, comes along with SpaceX, right? Now left and right. Everybody going up and down, up and down, up and down, in and out of space. Okay, so again, he pursued something that he liked. Even though he didn't have an example of a whole lot of other people doing that same thing, didn't matter. It was something that he liked to do. So that would be my biggest thing, whatever it is that you like. And then read up on it. So I know sometimes, and I even come across this with my students in college, some people don't like to read, right? And I would say that's okay, because I believe you just haven't found what you actually want to be reading. Okay, so I don't want you to let anybody from this day forth, right? If you say, oh, I don't really like reading, and they say, oh, no, 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 right? They come back with things. No, you may just not have found that thing that you really like reading about. But once you do, okay, I want you to work on devouring everything that you can about it. So for example, Davion, you had raised your hand when I said, was there anyone who was a gamer, right? If let's say someone said, Davion, I need you to go and sit in a classroom for an hour and a half while we talk about English and APA writing style. Probably not going to want to go, right? It just, I know, APA is not my jam either. But if somebody was to say, hey, Davion, we're going to be streaming on Twitch. We're going to have a 3-hour marathon on finding all the secrets of Fortnite.
I might not go.
You might not go?
I might go. I don't know.
You might go? Okay. But
It
you're probably going to,
It
Go ahead.
depends on my mood.
okay. What if it's an hour streaming? Will you show up for an hour?
Yeah, I'll go.
You go for that. Okay. Right. So that's my whole point. Once you find what that thing is that you would be willing to give an hour of your time to sit and watch maybe somebody else play the game so that you can learn something to help you do better, then that's what you go for. Yeah. So even if it is, if somebody wants to revive the whole pet rock, I don't know, somebody made money off of it before. Has anybody ever heard of Chia Pet?
Yeah.
Made millions off of Chia. Anybody has ever heard the commercial, right? Because somebody had an idea, and then what? They started turning it into different things. I've seen Scooby-Doo Chia Pets, right? My point is, if it's something that you like, then go for it. There is room and there's a need.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer some of our questions and share a little bit about what it is to be a podcaster and a small business owner. Do you have any last like comments and advice for those wanting to go into entrepreneurship or even just going into a career?
Sure. Very good questions. So talk with people who are doing what you're doing. So have you heard of the platform called LinkedIn?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that is a great resource, and it's no longer like stodgy, right? Like, you know, we have to have on the suit to get the job. It's not like that anymore. It really is a great place to connect. So if you find, I don't know, let's say you're into social media and you've been thinking about creating your own social media platform, right? Because there's room, right? There's definitely room for that. And you hop on LinkedIn and you start following Jack Dorsey, right? So Jack Dorsey was the previous CEO of Twitter. So you start following Jack Dorsey and you see he's making comments and you start just, you know, liking his comment or saying a little something. And then you send him a note and say, you know what, I really enjoyed seeing how you took your vision for Twitter and made it what it was before you handed it over to someone else. I'm thinking about doing something in the social media space. Do you think we could do like a 15-minute Zoom meet? right? You're not asking for a job, right? He can see you've been following him, you've been interacting. So again, going back to asking, right? If you see somebody who's doing something that you're interested in, ask them, right? If anybody on here was interested in podcasting, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, right? In terms of how it's done or what type of equipment to be used. Again, finding a niche, right? That was my thing. I enjoy talking to young entrepreneurs and seeing all the great things that they were doing. And so I said, that's what I want my focus to be on, an opportunity for me to share all that I have learned in business, all of my defeats and failures. If I can share them with someone else, and someone from hearing my story of it taking me 13 years to get what was supposed to be a 4-year degree, right? To take time to find someone to make a better choice if you decide to go to college, right? To find a college that fits you in what you want, so you don't have to spend all that much time, then I just think that's great. One other thing too, your skills, and everybody has a slew of skills, okay? Even though you might say, well, I'm young, I'm just figuring out. No, no, no. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, you have a slew of skills. Work to not perfect them, work to sharpen them. That's what I want to say, right? So if writing is something that you enjoy doing, that's also a type of skill, right? So work to sharpen that. Maybe you put yourself on Fiverr and offer to write blog posts for people. All right. So one, that's a form of entrepreneurship, right? A way for you to make money. Two, a way for you to sharpen your skill, right? By having an opportunity to write on a regular basis. Okay. Skills of empathy, right? So Sanaya, just her speaking that she desires to work in a nursing home, there are certain skills that come along with working in a nursing home. It's not for everybody. It is not for everyone, right? But for whatever your skills are, celebrate them and then just work to sharpen them. And I really believe that they will make room for you. And just one last thing, I know we're coming up on time. Something that I say at the end of all my podcast episodes. Everything in creation was created with a gift inside of it. That includes you. So make sure you go out there and share your gift with the world.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing all this, all your experience with us, because it seems like you have a wealth of knowledge from, your background, your growing up with all that happened during that time, as well as taking 13 years to get a degree and kind of sharing that. So thank you so much for being a little vulnerable with us and sharing your journey. Before we go, where can people reach you if they want to learn a little bit more and to learn more about your podcast?
Sure. So you can check me out on podcast platforms and on YouTube at Teens Biz Talk. That's teens with an S, BIZ talk.com. And also you can check out some things that I have on empoweringeducator.gumroad.com. So that's where I have some digital products. Actually, there's something there if you guys want to check it out. It's called 5 Steps to Starting a Business as a Teenager. There's no charge for that. So feel free to go ahead and hop onto Gumroad and take a look at that if that interests you. Yeah, I say those are 2 main places.
Great. Thanks so much. And we really appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom with us.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Awesome session, you guys. Any other questions just in case? Okay. Tara, we are so happy that you shared with us. Appreciate you very much for sharing with us. I will put on our Facebook, and I'll have anybody that's wants to. We'll be sending out emails for them because we actually have some people that were very interested in the podcast. So,
Okay.
and we're probably gonna be our first time trying to launch it in YouTube. So we'll see all the different things that come up with us trying new things of reaching other people. So right now I'm gonna stop recording, or I mean, Davion, stop recording.